This year has been completely crazy for video games. We've had dark, epic masterpieces being released like Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Oh yeah, and Elden Ring. Games like God of War Ragnarok and Stray. There's been a lot of very, very good games, but there's also been some complete dumpster fires. We've had some games that came out in 2022 that are broken, that are so terrible the studios themselves actually shut down, and today we're going to be shining a spotlight on those. What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here. These are my picks of the top 10 worst games of 2022. Number 10. Callisto Protocol. This game just came out like a week ago, and it's still being fixed. They're still having to drop patches for it to try and fix the completely broken frame rate, the fact that there's constant stutters on PC. The game is definitely unfinished, but more than that, it's just kind of unimpressive. This game was created by the original developers of Dead Space. These are the original geniuses that even came up with the idea of dark, spooky terror out in the far reaches of the universe. And that's part of why it's just shocking that the idea behind this game does not work. You're stuck in this prison with a bunch of zombie people, but the whole game plays like a brawler. It's all about dodging and bashing people in the face with your stun baton. It's all about trying to time your different movements. And while the game itself isn't a complete freaking mess, it's hard to recommend it because really it's something that should not have cost $70. A $30 game, a $20 game, maybe it wouldn't be on this list. Number 9. Saints Row. This reboot is easily one of the most hated games of the entire year. It was getting downvote bombed. It had people actually boycotting it because of how stupid and cringy the marketing was. And once it came out, it turned out the game was just a completely broken pile of code. The ending didn't work. A lot of the mini games would randomly break. The game constantly crashed. Now, I will admit, I actually had quite a bit of fun playing through Saints Row. I mean, there was just so many weird errors and stuff. In the rare instances where the game actually worked, it was kind of just entertaining to run around and cause chaos before eventually the game would end up just shutting itself down again. But it's one of those games, you shouldn't buy it, and now you're never gonna get another Saints Row game. This game bombed so hard, they actually rolled the developers into a different company. They literally fired everybody, liquidated the team, and just shoved them into a different department and said, all right, you screwed up for the last time. Saints Row definitely deserves its spot on this list. Number 8. Rainbow Six Extraction. Let's be real for a second. I feel like a lot of my subscribers are probably not even going to remember that this game exists. Rainbow Six Extraction is a very, very peculiar idea of a game. It's essentially a spin-off of Rainbow Six Siege, but instead of having new heroes or different classes, instead, this is about zombie space aliens. In every single match, you and a team of other players are trying to extract different things, whether it is like a specific objective, a character that's been cocooned, or sometimes just particular data. Now, on paper, I thought that extraction was a really good idea. I didn't really play much Rainbow Six Siege, and while I know it is an incredibly popular game, I guess this sort of struck my interest. I kind of like cooperative games, but once I actually played it, it's just so obviously a bad idea. A lot of the balancing, the weapons, the timers, the hero abilities and stuff just do not feel good. And more than that, the maps are incredibly lackluster. Trying to sneak into these hives and destroy stuff or get away without being detected, it never feels thrilling or tactical. It always just feels based on luck and basically how good your team is. I was never excited during all my hours with this game when I did my initial review. Never once did I feel that thrill of success. Even when I was playing with my friends, it felt like work. It never felt like the game it was attempting to be. Number 7. Gotham Knights. What if they decided to make a game that's like a Batman game, but without Batman? You could get Batgirl and Red Hood and Robin and basically just all these other characters that are part of the Bat family and give them their own epic adventure. Oh wait, they did that. Oh wait, it's freaking terrible. Now, the problem with Gotham Knights isn't the fact that they just instantly execute Batman during the opening credits, literally. My problem with it comes down to the gameplay loop. Essentially, what you have to do is go around and just grind random enemies. While beating up thugs, they drop clue crumbs. Like, literally, I cannot believe this is actually how the game worked. You would just beat people up again and again and again, and these little tiny hints fell out of their nipples like lactation, and you pick them up, and that would unlock the next main mission. And then once you go there, usually you just try and sneak around, break into a base, just punch Penguin in the face a couple times and stuff like that, and then go on to the next location. This game was not just repetitive, but even the traversal, everybody felt like basically a crappy apprentice to Batman. Flying around did not feel good. Using your bat bike did not feel good. Every part of this felt like I wanted to just go back and play an Arkham game. Arkham City is a million times better than this. The graphics of this game even suck. It got stuck at 30 frames a second. Every part of this, from a technical aspect, an art aspect, a gameplay aspect, it's a downgrade to games that literally came out a decade ago. Number 6. Vampire: The Masquerade Swansong. Oh my gosh, this game is just so bad. It just doesn't even make sense. So, Swansong is essentially a tabletop RPG. When you're playing this game, even though you can kill people, even though you can drink blood and harvest the living, this game has pretty much no combat, pretty much no interactivity. You walk around, you try and sneak up on people, and then whenever you're caught, there's dice rolls. You actually literally just apply yourself and actually roll dice to try and defeat people in conversational tactics. Oh my gosh, how did you make a game that has vampires, that has spooky cool ghouls and stuff, and yet instead of actually letting us be a creature of the night, you're just going around literally trying to converse your way out of not getting shot by a security guard? Swansong is a bad game. Now, I'm not saying that because it's just a strategic role-playing game. I'm saying that because even if you do actually analyze the writing, analyze the themes, analyze the voice acting, the game completely sucks. Even if you love Vampire the Masquerade, which I do, this is a crappy cash grab. Number 5. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. At the very beginning of the year, if I had to make a set of predictions, I never would have guessed that the most controversial game of the entire year would be freaking Pokemon. People despised this game. It has stirred up so much debate, so much controversy. Even Nintendo themselves has actually been doing a big set of refunds. There's been talk and discussion about the idea that this is the worst project that Game Freak has ever produced. These are technically the lowest rated Pokemon games ever. But you know why? I've actually beaten these games. This is my gameplay. That's my Charizard right now, actually whipping butt, even though he has a Japanese name. This is a game that gets a lot right. I do feel like the exploration, the times when you're just out in the wild, getting a chance to catch Pokemon and grind a bit, those singular moments in a vacuum are actually fantastic. This is the true open world Pokemon that a lot of us dreamed about as kids. The problem is that this game is a technical mess. It is an absolute shocker how bad the frame rate is, sometimes going down to literally single digits. There are towns in this game that run at 10 frames a second, and in a game that's very much trying to shock you with its beauty, impress you with its majesty, trying to give you the ability to traverse and explore and really kind of gawk at the world that Game Freak has built, it is unacceptable how bad this game runs. It's still just bizarre to me to play it, to have finished it, to have done every single gym, and now I could not ever go back. I'm straight up just burned on Pokemon. I mean, I'm stuck just with the idea that if this game had been right, I would be a Pokemaniac. This would have won me over to the Pokemon fan club forever, but instead, they had to poop the bed. Number 4. Scorn. If I had to explain this game in a single word, it would be yikes, because as much as I tried to respect what Scorn is going for, it doesn't really make the mark. It's a horror game that isn't really spooky. It's a game that's in space, but it never really feels intergalactic or extraterrestrial. Even though they do have a lot of very gorgeous visuals in this game, it just feels like walking around in a very, very, very dry and stale screensaver. I do feel like Scorn is probably one of the most boring games I've played this year, and I did beat it. It's not like the puzzles completely stumped me or that it's too brilliant for me. I just feel like Scorn is a game that wants to be high art instead of just being a video game. If you give me a shotgun made out of bone, that is very glorious to look at, but if it's not fun to shoot, how am I supposed to care? Scorn is such a poorly built experience, from the bad pacing to straight up the confusing moments of just trying to figure out when and where you're supposed to backtrack. Scorn is definitely a game that is mostly a tech demo, and I don't fault it for that, but it's certainly not entertaining. Number 3. Diablo Immortal. Don't you people have phones? These were the famous words that first introduced Diablo Immortal to the world, and ever since that point, I do feel like a lot of the messaging around it has been very toxic. But going into Immortal, I definitely did my best to have an open mind. I wanted to go into this with a fresh set of eyes and see what exactly they were trying to attempt. I am a Diablo superfan. I beat the games, I've read the comics, I've read the books, I've seen every scrap of fiction that exists in the Diablo universe. So when playing Immortal, I was curious, okay, if we're doing a cell phone game, what is it going to look like? What is it going to play like? And the answer is, well, it's just mobile garbage. This game is just filled with literally hundreds of thousands of dollars of microtransactions. And even if you don't spend them, the game is built around that experience of swiping your credit card. When you're exploring dungeons and getting loot, everything constantly asks you, hey, how about you buy this next boost? Hey, how about you buy that next piece of gear? And the problem is that the players who do pay, the whales, are getting a better experience. They're stronger, they're faster, they're better. And whether it is player versus player combat or just that next dungeon crawling escapade, they are going to kick your butt. And really, there's nothing you could do. Diablo Immortal is the kind of game where every second you're playing it, you kind of feel like you're losing. Number 2. Crossfire X. This is easily the worst first-person shooter I've ever played in my life. And it's funny to say that because I seriously have played hundreds of first-person shooters, whether it is Crysis or Halo or even just weird games like Red Faction back on the PlayStation 2. I have experienced the complete generational gap of different eras of great shooters. And this game, despite the fact that it came out in 2022, plays like a retro freaking dump. I mean, straight up, this game has floaty controls. It's got really brokenly balanced online multiplayer where people who get kill streaks can just own the entire match for the rest of the game. The single player story is a weird mix of bad audio, basically war propaganda, and very, very, very weird glitches constantly. Straight up, I'm not sure if this was even made. Like, there are occasionally these projects that pop up that are made by like 5 guys buying pre-designed assets. They basically go to a storefront on Unreal Engine or something like that, and they just buy cities and streets and chairs, and they cobble it together and slap a price tag on it. That's how Crossfire X feels. This game plays like straight up nobody ever tested it. Nobody played it for a second that wasn't an employee. So when they dropped it, the game is just so terrible. I think it's still on Game Pass. If you have this, like if you have Xbox Game Pass, I actually encourage you try this because it's just so terrible. It's kind of impressive. The first day I was playing it, I sat down and I played it for about 10 hours to record a bunch of footage for a review, and a couple of my buddies joined in and they were drunk, and we played a couple rounds together. And at one point, after doing like 2 or 3 very sloppy matches of the messed up death match, my buddy was like, bro, you gotta pay me to keep playing this. Now, my buddy at that point was so plastered, he should have found this to be at least mildly funny, but he didn't. This game is so broken, even drunk dudes will get sober rather than play another second. Screw this game and screw whatever the heck they were trying to do with it. Number 1. Babylon's Fall. It is my job, for lack of a better term, to play video games. I'm constantly trying to find that next great hidden gem, that big cool RPG, that next cool experience to show you guys. I love my job. Straight up, I jump out of bed every single morning to play big cool new games and make reviews about them. This is one of the only games where straight up it was so bad I almost didn't even finish my video. Now, the way this works, Babylon's Fall is focused on the idea of multi-directional, multi-weapon combat. So all of your buttons get turned into separate weapons. So really, the way this works is that you go into the menus and you equip a different weapon onto each of your buttons. So the shoulder buttons and stuff will be things like a bow or a hammer or a shield. Now, when you first see that, you might think that it will let you create custom combos or something like that, but it's really not how this game worked. Essentially, you just find whatever has the highest stat bonuses and press all the buttons constantly. Just literally hammer all the buttons constantly, because everything kind of has its own separate mana bars and cooldowns. There's no freaking strategy, there's no freaking fun grind, there's no real actual depth. But worse than that, this was clearly supposed to be an MMORPG. This was clearly meant to be a game with full cities and a bright, vibrant ecosystem. But they were already pushing stuff like a stupid predatory season pass before the game even came out. I mean, straight up, this game is so terrible, it nearly bankrupted Platinum Games. Like, I don't know why Square Enix even came together to form this complete freaking tragedy. And brace yourself, because this bad gameplay isn't even the worst part. The story is very weird. It's about like slaves, but I don't know, the whole game is it feels like it's trying to do something that might be edgy and weird, but you're like fighting for your freedom, and maybe your powers to have all this stuff is also giving you like cancer. And then there's a big plot twist where you're also inside of a simulation and maybe fighting against God or aliens. Oh my God. Literally, if I could take a pill that would make me forget this game, I'd swallow 5 of them. That's how bad this game is. And so because of it, I'm awarding this my pick as the very worst game of 2022. Did your most hated game not make the list? Got an idea for a future video? Please tell me in the comments down below what you think about it. Also, please like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. I was losing my voice when I started filming this video an hour ago, and now I can hardly speak. So seriously, I appreciate you guys watching it. Hopefully I can actually edit this together with my poor destroyed vocal cords. I love you guys very much. I'm probably going to relax for a couple days and drink some Dr. Pepper, because I'm very quickly losing it. Much love. Have a good one. Play some games, but nothing on this list, please.